The Austin skyline shimmered through floor-to-ceiling windows, a sea of glass and light stretching toward the horizon. But Sophia Moretti wasn't looking at the view. She was staring down the most dangerous man in Texas. Before we continue, if you love intense mafia romance stories full of power, betrayal, and slow-burning danger, hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe now so you don't miss a single twist. "Mr. Kang," she said, voice steady despite the way her pulse hammered against her ribs, "this shelter isn't for sale. Not the building, not the land beneath it, not for any price." Kang Jun-yak didn't blink. He sat with the unhurried calm of a man who had never been told no, not twice, and certainly never a third time. His tailored black suit looked out of place against the shelter's peeling paint and mismatched furniture, like a blade resting on a kitchen table. "Everyone has a price, Miss Moretti." His voice was low, edged with something that wasn't quite a threat, not yet. "I'd hate for negotiations to become unpleasant." "Then I guess we're done negotiating." Sophia crossed her arms, refusing to let her hand shake. Behind her, through the cracked office door, she could hear the kids in the rec room, laughter, the clatter of a board game. This shelter was the only thing standing between dozens of families in the street. Her father had built it with his bare hands. She would not hand it over to a man with cold eyes and an empire built on fear. Yun-yak rose slowly, buttoning his jacket. Up close, she could see the faint edge of a tattoo curling from beneath his collar, dark ink against golden skin, a flower with thorns, beautiful and dangerous, like everything else about him. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he said quietly, "and you don't know what this place means to the people inside it, so we're even." For a moment, just a moment, something flickered behind his eyes. Not anger, something closer to surprise, as if no one had spoken to him like that in years, maybe ever. "This isn't over," he said, and walked out without another word, leaving the scent of cedar and rain in his wake. That night, Sophia sat on the shelter's rooftop, knees pulled to her chest, watching the city lights blur into streaks through tired eyes. 3 days, 3 times she'd refused him, and 3 times he'd returned, each visit colder than the last. Tomorrow would make it official. He'd promised a 4th visit, and something in his tone had her stomach twist. She didn't hear the door behind her until it was too late. "You shouldn't be up here alone." Yun-yak's voice cut through the night air, low and unreadable. He stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, the city lights painting gold along his jaw. "It's a free country," Sophia said, though her heart had kicked into a gallop. "Or did you buy the rooftop, too?" A ghost of a smile touched his mouth, gone as quickly as it appeared. He moved closer, close enough that she could see the tension coiled in his shoulders, like a man carrying a weight he never set down. "My father built an empire on land like this," he said, voice quieter now, almost to himself. "Land he took from people who couldn't fight back." Sophia turned to look at him fully. There was something raw in his expression, guilt maybe, or the ghost of it. "And you're just going to finish what he started?" "I came here to acquire this property," Yun-yak said. His eyes moved to the rec room window below, where a little girl's laughter rang out, bright and unbothered. He watched it for a long moment. "I'm starting to think I came here for something else." Sophia's breath caught. "What does that mean?" He turned to face her fully, and for the first time the danger in his eyes gave way to something far more unsettling, something warm, something human. "It means," he said softly, "no one has ever made me reconsider anything until you." Below them, a black SUV pulled up to the curb, and a woman stepped out, draped in furs despite the Texas heat, her smile sharp as a blade catching candlelight. Yun-yak's expression hardened instantly. "Isabella," he murmured, and Sophia felt the temperature of the night drop 10 degrees. Whatever this was, whatever had just shifted between them, was about to get a lot more complicated. Isabella DeSantis didn't knock. She swept into the shelter's lobby the next morning like she owned it, heels clicking against worn linoleum, diamonds catching the fluorescent light, lips curved in a smile that never quite reached her eyes. So, this is the little charity case my nephew's been obsessing over. She swept over Sophia with the kind of contempt reserved for things she planned to discard. How quaint. Aunt Isabella. Unyak's voice carried a warning Sophia had never heard from him before, tight, controlled, like a man holding back a current. You weren't invited. I don't need an invitation to check on family business. Isabella's smile sharpened. Speaking of which, the board meets Friday. They'll want to know why the Kang acquisition has stalled again. It hasn't stalled. It's been reconsidered. Isabella laughed, soft and cold. Reconsidered. Is that what we're calling it? Her eyes flicked to Sophia, lingering with calculation. Careful, Junyak. Your father made the same mistake once, letting a woman make him soft. Look how that ended. The room went silent. Sophia saw the door clicked shut behind her, and the air in the room seemed to exhale. 3 weeks passed, and Austin's autumn settled gold and amber over the city, and something impossible began to bloom. Junyak returned, not with contracts or threats, but with a crew of contractors. He fixed the shelter's broken heating system before the first cold front hit. He quietly funded new bunks, fresh paint, a working stove in the kitchen. He never made a show of it. Sophia only found out because she caught him on his knees in the supply closet, sleeves rolled up, fixing a leaking pipe himself. "You don't have to do this," she said, leaning in the doorway, arms crossed but smiling despite herself. "I know." He didn't look up. "I want to." "Why?" He was quiet for a moment, tightening a fitting with quiet precision. "My father destroyed places like this, families like the ones here." His jaw tightened. "I spent my whole life cleaning up after him without ever asking if I wanted to be him. Maybe this is me asking." Something in Sophia's chest cracked open, not from pity but recognition. She knew what it was to carry a legacy that wasn't entirely your choice. "You're not him," she said softly. Junhyuk finally looked up at her, and the look in his eyes stole the breath from her lungs. "I'm starting to believe that, because of you." The space between them seemed to shrink without either of them moving. His hand found hers, warm and steady, thumb brushing against her knuckles. For a long moment neither spoke, the air thick with everything they hadn't said. "Junhyuk," Sophia started, voice barely above a whisper. "I know," he murmured. "This is reckless, dangerous. I have enemies who would use you against me without hesitation." "Then why does it feel like the safest I've ever been?" He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch lingering at her cheek. "For the first time in my life," he said quietly, "I'm not protecting an empire. I'm protecting you." He leaned in slowly, and just as their lips were a breath apart, Sophia's phone buzzed violently against the counter. She pulled back, startled, and answered on instinct. "Hello?" A familiar voice slid through the line, smooth as silk and twice as cold. "Hello, Sophia," Isabella purred. "We need to talk. Alone. Tonight. And if you care about Junhyuk or these children, you won't tell him I called." The line went dead. Sophia stared at the phone, her heart pounding for an entirely different reason now. Junhyuk frowned, reaching for her hand again. "Sophia, what's wrong?" She forced a smile, swallowing the cold dread spreading through her chest. "Nothing," she lied. "Just the shelter board. I have to go." Behind her smile, a storm was already gathering, one that would tear everything apart. The address Isabella had given led to a private dining room atop one of downtown Austin's glass towers, all white tablecloths and city lights, a place built for deals, not conversations. Isabella was already seated when Sophia arrived, a glass of wine untouched in front of her, a manila folder resting beside it like a loaded weapon. "Sit," Isabella said, not looking up. "This won't take long." Sophia stayed standing. "What do you want?" "What I want," Isabella said, finally meeting her eyes, "is for my nephew to remember who he is. The Kang organization isn't a charity, Miss Moretti. It's an empire built on alliances. Alliances that require Jun Hyuk to marry into the Sato family by spring. That deal secures peace between 3 organizations. Without it," she let the sentence hang, sliding the folder across the table, "people die. A lot of them." Sophia didn't touch it. "And what does that have to do with me?" "Everything." Isabella's smile was almost gentle now, which made it worse. "Jun Hyuk is distracted, soft. For the first time in his life, he's choosing a woman over his duty, and that hesitation has already cost us 2 months of negotiations. The Sato family is losing patience. Patient men with private armies, Sophia. Do you understand what happens when they lose patience?" "You're lying," Sophia said, but her voice wavered. "Open the folder." Inside were photographs, Jun Hyuk's father, decades younger, standing over a building that looked remarkably like the shelter, except in ruins, smoke still rising from the wreckage. Beneath it, financial records, dates, names, a pattern of violence stretching back 20 years, each negotiation failure ending the same way. "Every person who has ever stood between a Kang and an alliance has paid for it, Sophia. I'm not threatening you. I'm warning you. If Jun Hyuk doesn't marry into the Sato family by spring, the shelter and everyone in it becomes collateral in a war you cannot imagine." "He'd never let that happen. He wouldn't have a choice." Isabella leaned forward. "But you do. Leave tonight, disappear and never contact him again, and I will personally guarantee the shelter's safety permanently. I'll have it placed under protected status, untouchable by the organization, forever. Stay, and you risk everything, the children, the shelter, him." Sophia's hands were trembling now. "He loves me." "I know." For the first time, something that might have been sympathy flickered across Isabella's face. "That's exactly why you have to go. Love makes men reckless, Sophia, and reckless men get people killed." Sophia didn't sleep that night. She sat in the shelter's office long after the children were asleep, staring at the folder Isabella had let her keep, at the photo of the burned building, at a little girl's shoe lying in the rubble. When Jun Hyuk found her there at dawn, she'd already made her decision. "Hey." He crouched in front of her chair, brushing a thumb gently across her cheek, wiping away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "What happened? Talk to me." Sophia looked at him, really looked, memorizing the warmth in his eyes, the way he looked at her like she was something worth protecting instead of something to be used. And then she did the hardest thing she had ever done. "I don't think this is real," she said, voice flat, rehearsed, every word a blade twisting in her own chest. "I think I got caught up in whatever this was, but it's not love, Jun Hyuk. It was never love." His face went still. "Sophia, I need you to leave, and I need you to not come back." She stood, putting distance between them before she lost her nerve completely. "The shelter doesn't need your money. It doesn't need you. Please, just go." For a long moment he didn't move. Then something in his expression shuddered closed, the same cold mask she'd seen the very first day they'd met. "I see," he said quietly. He turned and walked out without another word. Sophia waited until she heard the elevator doors close before she collapsed against the wall, sobbing silently into her hands, because somewhere across the city, Isabella DeSantis was already smiling, and neither of them knew the real war had just begun. Sophia disappeared 3 days later. She left no note for Junyuk, only a brief message to the shelter's board citing personal reasons and a forwarding address that led nowhere. By the time anyone realized she was truly gone, she was 3 states away, working a diner job under her mother's maiden name, staring at a phone she refused to turn on. Junyuk threw himself into the one thing he knew: work. The Sato alliance moved forward, contracts were signed, the empire steadied itself just as Isabella had promised it would. But something was wrong. It started small. A shipment that should have cleared customs vanished without explanation, then a second. Then a meeting with the Sato family was abruptly postponed, twice, with no real reason given. Junyuk's lieutenants exchanged uneasy glances whenever Isabella's name came up, conversations cutting short the moment he entered a room. "Something's off," his head of security, Marcus, finally told him one night, sliding a tablet across the desk. "I pulled the shelter's property records like you asked. After Miss Moretti left, ownership status changed." Junyuk frowned, scanning the document. "Changed how?" "It's not protected. It was never filed for protected status." Marcus hesitated. "But there's a notarized letter on file, dated the same week Miss Moretti disappeared, signed by your aunt." Junyuk's blood went cold. "What does it say?" Marcus turned the screen toward him. It was a private memo, Isabella's handwriting, addressed to a buyer Junyuk had never heard of, a real estate developer. The shelter's land sold quietly, contingent on removal of current occupants by spring. The closing date? 2 weeks from now. "She used the shelter as leverage," Junyuk said slowly, the pieces clicking together with sickening clarity. "She told Sophia she'd protect it if Sophia left, and the moment Sophia was gone, she sold it anyway," Marcus finished quietly. Junyuk's hands curled into fists on the desk, the wood groaning under the pressure. Every conversation replayed in his mind: Isabella's careful timing, her sudden visit that night on the rooftop, the phone call Sophia had taken right before everything fell apart. "We need to talk, alone, tonight." "She didn't leave because she didn't love me," Junyuk said, voice barely above a whisper. "Isabella threatened her, threatened the children. She lied to protect us, and my aunt used that lie to steal everything from her anyway." He stood so fast his chair clattered backward. "Marcus, get me everything. Every account, every shell company, every signature my aunt has made in the last 6 months. Everything." "Boss, if you go after Isabella directly, the board—" "I don't care about the board." Junyuk's voice was low, lethal, every trace of the careful, restrained man Sophia had fallen for, replaced by something colder, something his father's blood had given him and which he had spent his whole life trying to bury. "I care about finding Sophia before my aunt does, because if Isabella realizes I know the truth, Sophia becomes a liability she can't afford to live alive." 2 days later, in a small Tennessee diner 3 states away, Sophia wiped down the counter for the 100th time, trying not to think about Austin, about him, when the bell above the door chimed. She didn't look up. "Be right with you." "Take your time," said a voice she didn't recognize, smooth, female, faintly amused. "I've been looking for you for quite a while, Miss Moretti." Sophia froze. Slowly she lifted her eyes. A woman in a charcoal coat stood in the doorway, dark hair pulled back, an ID badge clipped to her collar that read Sato Security, Private Investigations. "My name is Mina Sato," the woman said calmly. I work for the family June Hook was supposed to marry into, and I think it's time you and I had a very long conversation about Isabella DeSantis and exactly what she's been hiding from both of us." Sophia's stomach dropped through the floor. "What do you mean, both of us?" Mina's expression turned grim. "I mean, Isabella didn't just betray you, Miss Moretti." She stepped further inside, lowering her voice. "She forged the entire Sato alliance from the start. There is no marriage contract. There never was. Everything June Hook gave up, he gave up for nothing." The diner door swung shut behind her with a soft, final click. Mina Sato slid into the booth across from Sophia, glancing once at the empty diner before continuing, voice low. "6 months ago, Isabella approached my father with a proposal, an alliance between our families, sealed through marriage. My father refused. He's never met June Hook, never agreed to anything." Mina's jaw tightened. "Isabella forged the documents, used them to convince the board and June Hook that war was coming unless he complied." Sophia's hands trembled around her coffee cup. Why would she lie about something that big? Because the board controls the Kang fortune through a trust, but if June Hook is found unfit to lead, distracted, compromised by a forbidden relationship, say, that trust defaults to the next of kin, Isabella. She leaned forward. "She didn't need a marriage alliance, Miss Moretti. She needed June Hook to fail, and you were the easiest way to make that happen." The room tilted around Sophia. Every threat, every warning, every carefully chosen word from that night replayed in her mind, not as protection, but as manipulation. Isabella hadn't been trying to save the shelter or even the alliance. She'd been removing the one person capable of making June Hook choose love over the empire, because a man in love couldn't be controlled, and a man who couldn't be controlled couldn't be replaced. "The shelter," Sophia whispered. "She promised." "She sold it." Mina's voice was gentle now. 3 weeks ago, the closing happens in 19 days. After that, it's leveled for a luxury development. She slid a folder across the table, the twin of the one Isabella had shown Sophia weeks ago, except this one held real documents, real signatures, real proof. "Why are you telling me this? Why does Sato Security care what happens to a shelter in Austin?" "Because Isabella's forgery doesn't just threaten the Kang organization," Mina's eyes hardened. "It's been used to forge my family's signature on international documents. That's a federal crime, Miss Moretti, and an act of war if the wrong people find out before we control the narrative." She paused. "June Hook doesn't know any of this yet. He thinks his aunt manipulated you. He has no idea the forgery goes deeper, that Isabella has been quietly liquidating Kang assets for over a year, preparing to disappear the moment she caught." Sophia's blood ran cold. "She's going to run." "She's going to run soon," Mina confirmed, "which means whatever leverage she still has, including you, becomes disposable the moment she does." That night, Sophia sat in a cheap motel room, Mina's folder spread across the bed, staring at a photograph of June Hook taken just 2 days ago, gaunt, hollow-eyed, standing outside the shelter in the rain, watching it, as if waiting for her to come back. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Sophia." His voice cracked on her name, raw and disbelieving, like he couldn't trust it was really her. "Mina told me where to find you. I know everything. About Isabella, about the lie, about all of it." Sophia's throat closed. "June Hook, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to." "Don't." His voice was gentle but firm. "Don't apologize for protecting people you love. That's not a betrayal, Sophia. That's exactly who you are." A pause heavy with everything unsaid. "But I need you to listen to me now, because we don't have much time." "What's happening?" Isabella knows Mina found you, which means she knows the forgery is about to be exposed. His voice dropped, urgent. She's not running, Sophia. She's accelerating. The shelter closing. She moved it up. It's not in 19 days. Sophia's stomach dropped. When? Tomorrow morning, his voice hardened, every trace of grief replaced by something fierce and unshakable, and she's going to be there in person to make sure nothing stops the sale this time, including you. Outside, headlights swept across the motel curtains and didn't pass by. They stopped. Sophia killed the lights and pressed against the wall, heart hammering. Through the gap in the curtains, a black sedan idled in the lot, engine running, headlights aimed at her door. "Sophia?" June Hook's voice, sharp through the phone. "Talk to me." "There's a car outside," she whispered. "It's not moving." "Get to the bathroom, lock the door, now." His voice had gone hard, commanding, but underneath it, fear. "Marcus is 12 minutes out. I'm right behind him." The car door opened. Sophia didn't wait. She bolted for the bathroom, heart slamming against her ribs, and had just thrown the lock when the motel door burst open. "There's nowhere left to run, Sophia." Isabella's voice, calm as ever, slid through the thin door. "I admire your resourcefulness, truly, but Mina Sato made a mistake involving you in this, and mistakes need to be corrected." "Funny," Sophia called back, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded. "June Yuck said the exact same thing about you, about how easy this would all be if you just told the truth from the start." Silence. "He knows," Sophia said. "Everything. The forged Sato documents, the shelter sale, the liquidated assets. Mina Sato has copies of everything, Isabella, and she's not the forgiving type." For the first time, Isabella's composure cracked. "You're lying." "Check your phone," Sophia said. "I'd bet it's already blowing up." A pause, then the unmistakable buzz of a phone against the nightstand, followed by another and another. "You stupid girl," Isabella hissed, all pretense gone now. "You have no idea what you've—" The motel room door slammed open behind her. "Step away from her." June Yuck's voice was glacial, final, the voice of a man who had stopped being careful the moment he found out the truth. Through the bathroom door's gap, Sophia could see him silhouetted against the doorway, Marcus and 2 others flanking him. Isabella turned slowly, and, for the first time, Sophia saw real fear flicker across her face. "June Yuck, I can explain." "You forged documents that nearly started a war between 2 organizations," he said, stepping closer, voice deadly quiet. "You manipulated the woman I love into believing she had to disappear to protect people she's devoted her life to. And you tried to sell that shelter, her father's legacy, out from under her the moment she was gone." "Everything I did was to protect this family." "You did it to protect yourself." June Yuck's jaw tightened. "The board already knows, Isabella. Mina sent everything an hour ago. By morning, you'll have nothing left to protect because there won't be anything left of you." Marcus stepped forward, and within moments, Isabella was being escorted out, her protests fading into the night, swallowed by the sound of sirens approaching in the distance. June Yuck didn't wait. He crossed the room and pulled Sophia into his arms the second the bathroom door opened, holding him like he'd never let go again. "I'm sorry," Sophia whispered against his chest, "for lying, for leaving. I just wanted to protect you." "I know." His hand cradled the back of her head, voice rough with emotion. "And I almost lost everything that actually mattered because I let myself believe you didn't love me." He pulled back just enough to look at her, eyes glassy. "Never again, Sophia. Whatever comes, we face it together. No more lies, no more sacrifices made alone. 3 months later, the shelter reopened on a crisp December morning, its doors freshly painted, a new sign hanging above the entrance, the Moretti Kang Community Center. Children's laughter echoed through halls that had nearly been reduced to rubble. Sophia stood on the same rooftop where it had all begun, watching the Austin skyline glitter beneath a soft winter sky. June Yuck's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting against her hair. "No regrets?" he murmured. Sophia smiled, leaning back into him, watching their breath mingle in the cold air. Not one. Below them, the shelter glowed warm against the night, saved, rebuilt, and finally truly safe, just like the love that had refused to be buried. And just like that, their story found its quiet ending. But before you go, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what you loved most about this story. I read every comment. And if you enjoyed this Mafia romance, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this.